name is Dr. Vanlaltlani, and I have been working in Aizawl Theological College since 1983, 13th June. And my active service ended in the month of December 2018. And this year, 2019, from 1st January, I retired through this superannuation pension. I'm very happy to God, and I really thank God for giving me such long days of service in Aizawl Theological College. And today, I'm very happy to talk about the issue of Mizo identity. Identity is composed of different factors. One of the main factors that made me Mizo is my language. Any of Indian citizens or other countries' citizens who are having their own dialect, that will indicate to which group they belong, to which tribe they belong, to which clan they belong. Similarly, to talk about Mizo identity, one of the first important things is to know the language of Mizo. And Mizo of today have been practicing the language which was called in the past Dulian. But today's generation may not remember much about Dulian, but they will just say Mizo language. I am one of such Mizo community members who is speaking Mizo language. So my language can indicate that I am belonging to Mizo community and I am maintaining Mizo identity. And other factors, it can be my culture, Mizo culture, which I have been maintaining from my birth till today. Even naming my name, T. Vanlaltlani, T represents the sub-clan to which I belong, to a lot. And Vanlaltlani means Van, heaven, and Lal is king or lord, and then Tlan means redeemed or saved. Then Vanlaltlani in full can mean one who is saved by Heavenly Lord. And all those three syllables, Van and Lal and Tlan, are Mizo language. So my name itself can indicate that I'm belonging to Mizo community. And being one of the members in Mizo community, I'm maintaining Mizo culture. And culture also is composed of various things. And culture cannot be defined to be accepted by each and every one of human beings. So culture is dynamic. As a Mizo culture had demanded from our childhood, as Mizo children, we used to gather together at night, what we call to do ponto. And we were having several ponto poems and also some kind of games, different kinds of games with songs. That had been the content of Mizo culture. When we were growing a little bit older and taller, we as together used to go to fetch water from village stream and also to fetch firewood from the jungles. Of course, we could go alone, but as Mizo, to live as community and as group of friends, we enjoy that because Mizo culture is very much community oriented. So I too had been participating with other Mizo community children, and often we used to go together for different programs and different kinds of purposes, like maybe plucking of mulberry tree from the jungle, plucking of some other jungle fruits like sirkam or and other things like sinlu and others. So we used to be very happy, and individualism did not take place, I should say. Whatever we have found, something good, we want to share with friends. So sharing life is very much a part of Mizo culture. So being one of the Mizo community members, when I have been very small and grew up older and taller, and also grew up at the age of teenage, entertaining visitors and others, even strangers. Very much I was happy to entertain visitors and strangers from different villages as well as from our own village community members. Because Mizo identity is very, very important. The reason is because of being Mizo, as I had already said, we wanted to share whatever we have with others. We had never charged our guests for their food and accommodation. So food and accommodation was free of cost for long days and long years. And even now, in villages, I don't think that they have been charging for food and accommodation. Only in the cities, in some houses, they may do that. So if we are staying with relatives, families, and friends' families, we have never given payment for our food and accommodation. That is one of the Mizo culture, as well as that make all the Mizos to maintain Mizo identity, in which sharing and communitarian way of life dominate our life. And other factors can be there as the composer or the element of this identity, that is our dress. Nowadays, only on the days of festivals like Saptarkut and other important days, especially in the church, Mizo women are wearing Mizo puan. And this kind of dressing with our own handmade, of course nowadays handlooms are becoming popular. But I think about 20 years back or 30 years back, and even now in some places, not in the cities, our local handloom, just prepared by some of the craftsmen, we are using that kind of weaving machine. Machine was run by our own hands. I myself was weaving a lot of Mizo puan to sponsor myself. Before my marriage, I just bought only 2 ready-made Mizo puan. The rest, I was weaving by myself. Even after I was working in Aizawl Theological College, in the morning and in the evening, still I was doing that weaving work. Even when I had to go for my doctoral studies, still I did. So, Mizo way of dressing is very much shown and exhibited by women. So, what I am trying to say in this identity issue, wearing of our own handmade or handloom prepared Mizo cloth When we are wearing this kind of Mizo one, very much we feel that we are belonging to Mizo community. That means our dressing is one of the factors that really make us to feel that we are belonging to Mizo community and we are maintaining Mizo identity. I want to continue some factors which are responsible for the formation of identity, that is our identity as female. Femaleness in sex is one of the factors making women's identity. The reason why people call me woman or female is because of my sex. So, for personal identity, this sex identity is very, very important. And this sex identity as female makes women different from men. So, men and women are not same because of their difference in sex. And another factor which I wanted to mention is identity as composed by this professional identity. What kind of person and what kind of woman a person is. To talk about a person's identity, whether that person is professional woman or non-professional woman, that is also very important. The reason why I want to say is this. For example, me, being one of the lecturers and later associate professors and professors in the college, my profession very much strengthens and indicates my identity. The way how people look at me, the way how people's attention and attitude towards me very much have been affected by my professional identity as a teacher in the college. Similarly, another person who is not professional woman, who is not cash earning person, though that person may be a very nice person, but still then some people may think of that person as non-professional woman. So the identity that she maintained and the identity that I maintain, being both women, still then there is a difference. And also another thing that I want to say is identity also is composed of or formed by a person's singleness or a person's marriage life. There are two men, for example, Mr. Lala and Mr. Moya. Mr. Lala is a single person and Mr. Moya is a married person. Whenever people talk about them or want to address to them, very much in Mizo language, for Mr. Lala who is unmarried, they may say Tlangva, Tlangva, and Mr. Moya who is married, they may say Pumoya, Pumoya. So both of them are men. They have male identity. At the same time, the former's singleness and the latter's marriage identity make them different from one another because their identity as married or unmarried still makes them different. In that way, identity is very much formed by different factors. So for personal identity, I think there are several factors more to be talked about. There are some people who want to know and who want to discuss about the issue of Zohnahthlak today. And this is an inclusive term to my understanding. Personal identity, I had already talked, although it is not sufficient. But coming to this group identity, I should say, Zohnahthlak identity. To my understanding, this Zohnahthlak refers to descendants of people who practiced Mizo language, who maintained Mizo culture, and also who had the knowledge of Mizo way of life, and also who have been practicing Mizo way of life till today. Of course, to some extent, because of the effect and consequence of the environments, living environments. For example, members of Zohnahthlak who are living in Asian countries may be a little bit different from those who are living in Western countries like European countries and American countries. So in this regard, I wanted to say that the term Zohnahthlak is a very inclusive term, as well as a blanket term, I may say. It is an umbrella to my understanding and observation. Zohnahthlak will be always, of course, maybe different understanding will be there, but descendants of the ancestors who were known as Mizo or Zo, who had been using Mizo language, maybe it was called Dulian in the long past, and also who were maintaining Mizo culture at least in one way or another. Because of environmental differences, change may be there, difference may be there. For example, in Western countries, some of the Zohnahthlak members have been living there. And often we come to know that in Western countries, people were very much individualistic, and there is no much communitarian way of life, and also sharing life. And those who are living in one building also did not have any fellowship with one another, or they didn't share any meal or anything together. But Zohnahthlak members who are living in Western countries often entertain to their fellow Zohnahthlak members who visited them. Living examples can be there. Recently, Mizoram Presbyterian Church youth members and the choir members who were called synod choir members paid a visit to Wales. And when they were reaching London, and while they were in London, very much they were entertained and warmly hosted by one of the Zohnahthlak member who has been living in London for a number of years. That family happily welcomed them and hosted them with a lovely dinner, and choir members and youth leaders, as well as Mizoram Presbyterian Church Synod moderator, and all those who went with the group enjoyed the dinner there. Although individualism is very strong in the Western countries because of being member of Zohnahthlak. That person maintains Mizo identity even in European countries and happily entertained his fellow Mizo members, church members and leaders, and treated them as best as he can. Like that, the way how we are doing may be different. The way how we are living may be different. The way how we are thinking may be different. From one continent to another, at least some commonalities would be there always among the members of Zohnahthlak. Maybe in dieting, maybe in dressing, maybe in communication, maybe in friendship entertainment, and maybe in another way that a person can do as best as he or she can. Regarding this literature, I want to speak about the literature of any community, including Mizo community. And to talk about literature, I am not the qualified person, but I feel that today some people want to know the role of religion in literature. So I am going to that point. Religion cannot be defined by one person to be acceptable to each and every member of human community. Even the scholars in the world who attempt to define religion, they do in their own way, but other scholars may argue against another in the way how the scholars define religion. Because of that, I am not trying to define religion. But I want to say that religion is playing very important role in the community and in the literature. Without religion, human beings do not live, so to say. Of course, today there are several atheists, but compared to people who are holding religion and who are practicing their respective religion, compared to that, atheists would be very less. Because of that, we can say that religion is very important for human, because religion can unite people together. For example, living in India, people who are belonging to Hindu community can do many things together, whereas non-Hindu friends may not like to join them. Similarly, Christians want to do many things together. They want to celebrate Christmas and New Year together. They want to celebrate Good Friday and Easter Sunday together in the church or in any convenient places. And also, in some places, they want to celebrate Palm Sunday. In that, while Christian community members are very happy to celebrate that, non-Christian friends may not join them, even though they may be neighbors to each other. So, coming to religion and literature, religion, by playing important role in one's life, a person, because of his or her religious practices may like to put his or her own experiences through writing. Many experiential documents may be made by one person, and that is one of the literature. And as religious people often gather together on certain occasions for their fellowship and for their living together, always they need some guides or some guidelines, some hymns or songs to which they can sing together, through which they can praise objects of their worship. When they sing together, when they dance together, when they shout together, when they pray together, all those songs that they sang and words that they used and their expressions may be put in writing, and whatever they have put in writing became literature for those people. Because of that, if there are religious gatherings many times, literature will grow, literature will increase, literature will become more and more. And if more people are playing a role in religious gatherings and worships, then out of their worship to objects of their worship, they also experience many things new in their life, within their life. And their lives may be changed. And also, in their religious gatherings, they may learn many things from friends who are sharing their religious experiences. And if they are listening to each other and hearing from one another about their experiences, one person or another may like to put those in writing, then whatever they are putting in writing would become part of literature. Because of that, religion and religious gatherings and religious people are the source of literature. If such is the case, religion plays a very important role in the formation of literature, in the promotion of literature, and literature has become richer and richer due to the increase of the source of literature, that is, religious people and religious community. To talk about literature, I want to say that oral literature is very, very important in order to make written literature. Oral tradition, oral literature is the source of written literature. For example, in Mizoram context, before 1894, Mizo alphabets were not made yet. Only after the coming of two Arthington missionaries, alphabets had been prepared to suit with Mizo language. After having alphabets, then they learned how to read and write. And today, almost all people are literate who can do reading and writing. Before 1894, it was not that there was no literature. Very much there was Mizo literature. Only that they were in oral form. And this oral tradition became very important. and oral transmission of the literature was very important. Without this oral tradition and oral literature, there could not be any written literature. And today, because of the blessing of the gospel and Christianity, Christian literature is becoming rich in our own Mizo language as well as in English language, and more hymns and songs are coming up. But while we are seeing and while we are hearing the richness of Mizo Christian literature, we should not forget the period of the oral tradition. In those days, because of no written literature, our ancestors were very good in their memory, and whatever they recorded in their memory, there was a time when they could speak out. For example, from religious context, the sadhus in different villages who used to offer sacrifices, they had the mantras, the religious chanted words, and they were very expert to chant those words. And they could teach their own children or those who would succeed them in their priestly function. Only some years back, especially after Christianity, some of our senior pastors like Reverend Sai Thanga, Reverend Liang Khaya, and others had recorded some of the religious mantras. And later, Tribal Research Institute of Art and Culture Department of Mizoram did research on pre-Christian religion of Mizo, and they did more recordings for the mantras, for the chanted words of the priests. Fortunately, as one of the students in religion department during my master's course, I met Sadot Lianzika in Mualpeng village, and he chanted some of the religious mantras for me, and I recorded and I had produced in my MTH dissertation, what we call thesis in theological context. I was very happy to hear traditional priests who could recite all those mantras. We, the younger generations, are very lucky because the senior citizens could remember what they used to recite in the past. So, today, Mizo traditional religion and religious mantras can be studied by youngsters because of their valuable memory of the traditional mantras, chanted words for religious purpose. Similarly, not only in religious circle, even in secular circle, many of the oral traditions, oral literature were present before they were put into black and white. And those oral literature were very important. For example, our ancestors used to say that they were coming down from far east And on their way to come to Mizoram, they could not go as one group, and some groups were walking faster and some were at the back. And then the first group were using their dhows for cutting some trees. And they cut one of the trees, which was called muk. And the moment they cut that, then that tree where they cut did not appear so fresh. So the next group saw that muk tree, and they thought that their friends who were walking ahead of them were reaching far away, because the tree, muk tree that they had cut did not look very fresh. And they stay back in Kolzol Bungpui area, today's Tahan and Kampat area in Myanmar. And many other places they had come across when they were moving down. Some of the ancestors, some members could remember the places where they went, and also some places where they rested for some years, and their experiences, especially in their struggle with some other groups. And also they had experienced some fightings with some other groups. All those historical events and incidents were remembered and recorded by our ancestors in oral form. But later, when some Mizos became literate, after asking our ancestors the places where they came from and their experiences through their migration, from there, the written literature had to be born. After the senior ancestors had transmitted their experiences, those experiences became historical events and incidents for the people who could record well. And ancestors' groups' experiences and their struggle and their migration process to come and arrive Mizoram and their settlement in Mizoram, and all their experiences were recorded by senior literate people. As I said, Riven Biankaya, Riven Sai Aitanga, and some secular historians. In that way, oral tradition, oral transmission of events and incidents experienced by group of people became written literature today. And now I want to talk about the relationship between literature and religion. Not only relationship between two of them, but the relationship between literature and religion, in what way they affect the feeling of oneness and unity among members of Zohnahthlak, or those who are maintaining Mizo identity. Already we had talked about identity and also the role of religion for the promotion of identity. and importance of literature, oral literature and written literature. Now, to talk about literature and religion as the promoters of the living spirit of members of Zohnahthlak community, as well as Mizo Christian community in Mizoram. Where I was traveling alone in aeroplane, while I was alone, I was thinking that no other Mizo was there. But when we were landing, if I see somebody who speaks some words or who sings some songs in Mizo, then I would easily feel at home to talk to that person in asking whether that person is belonging to Mizo or not. If the person responds me that he or she also belongs to Mizo community and sings Mizo song, then there won't be any minute that we feel that we are so different. In spite of that, the moment we can speak same language, and the moment we can hear same language as well as same songs, which we understand well, there can be relationship because of being Mizo. That means literature, song, and singing makes spirit of oneness, spirit of relationship. In that way, religion also plays a very important role. And religion is playing a role of uniting religious people together, religious community members together. And talking about Christian community in Mizoram context, even in the way how we sing and the way how we play the drums, it's very easy to guess that the people who are singing in that church belong to the Presbyterian denomination or United Pentecostal Church denomination or Baptist Church denomination. Even the tune that we have been following while singing help us to feel that we are together, we are Christians together, in the midst of denominational differences, very much that Christian unity, Christian community members' oneness in spirit can be guessed easily. The reason is, although we have other religious community members in Aizawl city, rarely they are singing loudly as Christian community members gathering in the church. Hindu friends in Aizawl city may gather together in some of the mandirs in Bongkon, Babutlang, and Chuampui Mandir. Like that, Muslim friends may gather together in Chuampui Mosque, Barabazar Mosque, and other places. And Sikh community members may gather together in the Gurdwara in Chuampui area. But the sound of their music the sound of their singing, the sound of their preaching and all may not be very loud as the Christian community church services are doing. Therefore, religion, Christianity or Hinduism or Islam or Sikhism can play very important role for uniting their concerned community members to be together, to sing together, to pray together. So, religion is so important. Religion of Muslims, Islam, unites Muslim friends together. Although they are belonging to different sects like Sunni, Shia, Khawarijites and other groups. But still then, the mosques will be the place where they are gathering. And even though there are many Hindu friends in India, they may not easily go to the church or the mosque to pray or to worship. The reason is they are not belonging to Christian community, they are not belonging to Sikh community or Muslim community. That means religion unites its concerned community members together. And because of that, Mizo Christians, even though they may belong to different denominational churches, some kind of oneness and unity is very much felt by them because of their Christian identity, because of their belief in Jesus Christ, who wants to save all people and who sacrifices his life for the sake of all people in the world. Struggling for theological education for a number of years, I feel that theological education is open for men and women in order to prepare ourselves for divine ministry, to share in God's ministry, to participate in God's ministry. As one of the women theologians, I have struggled a lot during my study days because several times I received a question, why do you study theology? Pastoral ministry is not open for women. What are you going to do? Often that kind of questions were raised to me. But to myself, one thing is very clear. That is, God's call is so definite for me. God, who created me to be a woman, who gave me a chance for theological education, who survives my life, knows how to use whatever education and knowledge God gives me can be used usefully for God's ministry. Unexpectedly, in 1983, when I came back from my BD study from Serampore College, in the new academic session in June 1983, the then principal asked me to teach some subjects in Aizawl Theological College. From that day onwards, I have been continuing my teaching ministry in Aizawl Theological College. My active service ended in December 2018. By God's grace, still I continue to teach in the Department of Religion in ATC as a contract teacher. I am very happy to take up this teaching ministry. I know that it is not pastoral ministry, but I feel that teaching ministry is not greater or less than pastoral ministry. God knows how to make use of the theological education that God gave me for God's glory, as well as for preparing the youngsters to do pastoral ministry as well as non-pastoral ministry, but to be in God's ministry in any possible way that they can serve. I do enjoy to serve God through my teaching ministry till there.